All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we're going deep on something truly out there. We're talking reptilian beings, like lizard people, hiding in plain sight, maybe even controlling humanity with some kind of hypnotic code.
Whoa.
I know, right? Sounds like pure science fiction.
Yep.
But before you hit that unsubscribe button, we've got some sources to unpack. A woman named Fleurbrun claims she's cracked this reptilian code and says she can even teach you to break it so you can see these creatures yourself.
Wow.
I'm with you. I was pretty skeptical at first too, but that's why we have our expert here.
Well, I'm glad to be here. This is definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, you can say that again. So I'm hoping you can help us, like sift through all this and see what, if anything, makes sense.
I'll certainly do my best.
Awesome. So, while this whole reptilian thing might sound pretty wild, I think it's interesting how it kind of connects to like beliefs in different cultures and myths, throughout history.
You're right, it is. Shape-shifting creatures, especially reptilian ones, they show up all over the place. Usually they're associated with power, deception, even creation myths.
Right. It's like this primal fear or fascination or something.
Exactly.
So while Fleurbrun's ideas, they might seem totally unique, she's really tapping into something a lot older,
Yeah.
like this deep human need to explain the unknown.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's break down what Fleurbrun actually says. She describes this hypnotic code, and this is like the key, right? This is how the reptilians appear human, how they blend in.
Interesting.
But it gets even crazier. She doesn't just stop there, right? She goes on to say that they're messing with our thoughts, our actions, all through this code, basically like they're puppet masters.
That's a pretty intense claim.
Yeah, and she even gives you like this specific mantra, right? She says it can break the code so you can like really see their true form.
Yeah.
Pretty wild stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. To really dig into this, I think we need to understand what she means by hypnotic code.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we know hypnosis is a real thing.
Right.
A psychological state,
Mm-hmm.
You're more suggestible, more open to influence.
Yeah, yeah.
But Fleurbrun, she takes this idea way further. Like she's saying there's this deliberate manipulation of how we see things, and it's all coming from these reptilian beings. It's a huge jump, and scientifically, there's just no evidence for it. But the thing that I find interesting is how she connects this hypnotic code to this whole system of control.
Right. She's like weaving this whole web
Right.
with things like frequency fences and grids, even tying in ideas like GMO foods and chemtrails. She says it's all designed to, keep humans down, keep our vibrations low or whatever, so we're easier to control.
It's definitely a blend of conspiracy theory and esoteric beliefs, that's for sure.
For sure. And this is where I think critical thinking is super important.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get pulled into these ideas, right? Like they're almost designed to be captivating.
Right.
So we got to be careful.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at these frequency fences and grids, they're ideas that pop up a lot in New Age circles, in esoteric beliefs. People talk about these like energetic boundaries, structures that can mess with our consciousness. Some even think you can manipulate them to hold people back.
Wow.
It's fascinating, but again, there's no science to back it up. The thing that really gets me though is how these ideas tap into our fears. It's like this deep anxiety about hidden forces controlling our lives.
Oh, totally. Like we want to understand, we want to feel in control, but the world can be so chaotic. So it's kind of comforting to think there's like a reason, even if it's a scary one. Yeah. Okay, so we've got this hypnotic code, these energy grids, all keeping us in the dark. But then Fleurbrun takes it up another notch, right? She warns about actually seeing these reptilian beings, says it can really mess you up and that they'll know you can see them.
That's pretty chilling.
Yeah, like a warning, right? Like a price you pay for seeing the truth.
Yeah, and then she throws in another twist, right? Not all these beings are bad. Some are, she says some are good, like benevolent extraterrestrials.
Yeah. So we've got like a whole cosmic battle going on, but we can't even see it.
This psychological aspect is really important.
Oh, for sure.
Imagine seeing something that just like breaks your whole understanding of reality,
Yeah.
Something totally alien.
Totally.
It could be traumatic, absolutely.
Yeah.
Our brains, they're wired to look for patterns, to make sense of things.
Right.
But when you see something that just doesn't fit, it triggers all this fear, anxiety. You might even feel like the world's not what you thought it was.
It's like It's like a horror movie mixed with philosophy.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
You're suddenly thrust into this whole new reality you never even knew existed, and you have to deal with it.
And then there's this good versus evil thing, right?
Oh, yeah, the benevolent versus malevolent beings. That's pretty common in UFO stuff and conspiracy theories, right? What do you think about that?
Well, it's really interesting, and I think it shows how much we need to categorize things, even when we're dealing with something we don't understand.
Yeah.
It's like we impose this good versus evil
Yeah.
on everything, even even hidden entities.
Right.
Maybe it makes us feel better,
Yeah.
like we can handle the unknown if we can label it.
Makes it less scary.
Exactly. But the truth is, it's probably way more complicated than that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we've got a hypnotic code, energy grids, psychological warnings, and a cosmic battle between good and evil. And we're just getting started.
Oh boy.
Flurbrun, she goes on to talk about all these other beings too. Clones, walk-ins, people with no souls. It's a lot to keep track of. But before we get lost in all that, I think it's worth focusing on what she says about the reptilians themselves, like how to spot them.
Okay, yeah.
She talks about seeing like indentations or tribal markings on their necks, eyes that shift, reptilian eyes, even full-blown extra-dimensional overlays.
Right.
Like it's like a guidebook to spotting a reptilian in disguise.
Well, that's where we really need to think about how our brains work, how we process what we see, especially when it's something as out there as reptilian beings.
Yeah.
Our brains are amazing, right? They're constantly filtering information, interpreting everything,
Right.
but it's not perfect. The way we see things, it's influenced by what we expect to see, what we believe, even how we're feeling.
So like our brains could be making stuff up.
Well, not exactly making stuff up, but maybe filling in the blanks, creating a picture that fits with what we already think.
Oh, okay, I see.
There's this thing called pareidolia. You ever see a face in the clouds or like an animal in a rock formation?
Yeah, all the time.
That's pareidolia. Our brains are wired to see patterns even when they're not really there.
Wow.
So if you're already convinced reptilians are real, walking among us, you're going to be more likely to see them everywhere, even if it's just a trick of the light or something.
That's kind of freaky.
Yeah, it can be. That's why it's so important to be careful, to be skeptical, especially with stuff like this.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, wow, we've covered a lot of ground already. We've got the hypnotic code, energy grid, psychological warnings, a cosmic battle of good and evil, and now we're talking about how our brains can trick us. It's a lot. My brain's kind of melting a little bit.
I hear you. It's definitely a lot to process. This whole theory, it plays on some pretty deep fears.
Yeah.
About control, perception, what's real, what's not. It's natural to feel a little overwhelmed.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
We all want to understand the world, to feel like we have a grip on things, but sometimes the more you dig, the more questions you find.
That's the truth. Okay, so we're gonna take a quick break here, but we'll be right back to dive even deeper into Flurbrun's claims, look at some of the history of reptilian beliefs, and see what psychology and science can tell us about all this.
Yeah.
All right, so back to this whole hypnotic code thing. Flurbrun, she claims these reptilian beings and other entities are using this code to like hide their true forms from us, right? And she ties it all into this bigger system of control, this web that includes these frequency fences, these grids, even stuff like GMOs and chemtrails. It's a lot to wrap your head around. So I was hoping maybe we could start with those frequency fences and grids. Like, what is she actually talking about here? And does any of it hold up when you really look at it?
Well, to understand Flurbrun, you gotta get into some of these new age and esoteric beliefs. That's where she's pulling a lot of this from.
Okay, so like what kind of stuff?
So these frequency fences and grids, they're often used to describe these unseen, energetic boundaries or structures, and they supposedly influence our consciousness. Like, imagine this invisible web that can be manipulated to like hold people back and suppress their potential.
Wow, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, it is. And from from a scientific perspective, there's really no evidence to support any of this, the existence of these grids, or that they can be manipulated in this way. But the thing is, it really resonates with people, this idea that there are these unseen forces out there, maybe holding us back from from being our best selves.
Yeah, it's almost like a modern day myth, right? We've always had stories about unseen forces shaping our world, whether it's, gods or spirits or in this case like energy grids and reptilian overlords.
Mhm.
Makes you wonder if we're just wired to look for these hidden explanations even when they don't make sense logically or, scientifically.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thought for sure.
So, but Fleurbrun, she takes it even further, right? She's saying that things like GMO foods and chemtrails are all part of this system of control. That's a pretty big claim. What's the thinking there? Like, how do those things fit into this whole picture?
Well, when you look at conspiracy theories, you often see this tendency to connect, seemingly unrelated things, events, to create this narrative of control of manipulation.
Okay.
And so in this case, you've got GMO foods and chemtrails, which are already topics of concern for a lot of people,
Right.
and they become part of this larger narrative of hidden forces trying to suppress humanity. And again, it's important to remember there's no scientific evidence to support these claims. But for someone who really buys into this whole conspiracy, these everyday things become proof, become evidence of this hidden hand at work.
Yeah, it's like every little thing suddenly confirms their worldview, even if it doesn't really make sense.
Right.
But in the middle of all this talk of, control and manipulation, Fleurbrun also says that some of these hidden beings are actually benevolent, like they're on our side.
Yeah.
How does that fit in? Is that something you see a lot in these types of theories?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the idea of benevolent extraterrestrials, it's a pretty common theme in ufology and New Age thought. It's often presented as this counterbalance to the fear and anxiety of these malevolent entities. Like, think about it. If you're convinced that there are these powerful beings out there hidden, controlling your life, wouldn't it be comforting to believe that some of them are actually looking out for you?
Yeah, it's like a cosmic safety net, a little bit of hope in this potentially terrifying reality.
Exactly.
But then Flavrone, she throws in another curveball, right? She starts talking about clones, walk-ins, beings with no souls. It's like she's pulling from every corner of the paranormal and sci-fi world. How do these concepts fit into her theory, and what does it say about how we try to make sense of what's real and what's not?
Well, these concepts, while they're fascinating to think about, they're even further removed from any kind of mainstream science or verifiable evidence.
Mhm.
Clones, walk-ins, soulless beings. These are they come from a blend of science fiction, esoteric beliefs, and personal experiences that just don't fit into any conventional explanation. And it's important to be skeptical of these claims, but it's also worth thinking about why these concepts resonate with people.
Right.
What needs are they addressing? What anxieties do they offer? Do they offer a sense of control?
More.
Or explanation, or even comfort in a world that can often feel pretty chaotic and unpredictable.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if maybe these beliefs serve some kind of psychological function, like maybe they provide a framework for understanding things that don't fit into our normal understanding of the world.
Yes, could be.
Or maybe they offer a sense of belonging,
Yeah.
connecting people who share these beliefs in a community.
That's a good point. Belief systems, even those based on unconventional ideas, they can definitely offer a sense of community, purpose, and meaning.
Right.
They provide a lens through which people interpret the world,
Mhm.
and they can make sense of experiences that might otherwise feel confusing or even frightening.
Okay, so we've got this whole complex web of hidden forces, hypnotic codes, energy grids, and a mix of benevolent and malevolent beings. It's a lot to take in, and it raises a lot of questions about the nature of reality itself. How do we even begin to separate fact from fiction in a world where beliefs can be so powerful?
That's a tough one.
All right. So we're back, and I gotta say, I'm still processing everything we've talked about, this whole hypnotic code thing, unseen energy grids, beings hiding among us. It's pretty wild, but I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is this idea that that maybe we're not seeing reality clearly, Like Flurbrun, she even describes what these reptilian beings look like, indentations on their necks, eyes that shift back and forth, even like full-on extra-dimensional overlays, like something out of a movie. It makes you wonder, are people really seeing this stuff, or is there something else going on?
Yeah, and that's where things get really interesting, I think, because it forces us to really look at how we perceive the world, how
Yeah.
our brains work. It's like, think about it. Your brain is constantly taking in information, sights, sounds, everything.
Right.
And it has to filter all that, interpret it to create like a picture of the world that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
But that process, it's not perfect. It's influenced by so many things, our expectations, our beliefs, our experiences, even how we're feeling at that moment.
So what we see as reality, it's really just our brain's interpretation of it.
So you're saying what we see might not be like the objective truth.
Right, exactly. Our brains could be filling in the gaps, creating a picture that fits with what we already believe.
So like our brains are kind of playing tricks on us.
No, I wouldn't say tricks exactly, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of subconscious processing going on. There's actually this phenomenon called pareidolia. You ever see a face in the clouds or like an animal in a rock formation?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Right. That's pareidolia. It's our brains. They're wired to see patterns even when they're not really there.
Wow. So if you already believe in these reptilian beings, you might be more likely to see them everywhere, even if it's just like random shadows or something. Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be aware of our own biases, to be critical of what we see and hear.
Yeah, that makes sense. But if we can't always trust our senses, then how do we know what's real? How do we navigate a world where beliefs can be so strong that they actually change how we see things?
That's a great question, and honestly, it's one that philosophers and scientists have been wrestling with for centuries. I don't think there's an easy answer, but I think a good place to start is just acknowledging the power of belief, and being aware of our own biases. We all have them, right? We see the world through these filters based on our experiences, our upbringing, all that. So the key is to recognize those filters and be open to the possibility that we might be wrong.
So it's about being skeptical, but also open-minded at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Questioning our assumptions, being critical of information, and recognizing that there's still a lot we don't know about the world, about the universe.
Wow. Okay. I think we've given everyone a lot to think about today. We've explored these claims of reptilian beings hiding among us, this hypnotic code, the idea of unseen energy grids controlling humanity, the psychological impact of all this, and how our brains can even trick us into seeing things that aren't really there. It's a lot to unpack for sure.
And it's a reminder that the search for truth, it's an ongoing process. We may never have all the answers, but the important thing is to keep asking questions, to keep exploring, to keep trying to understand.
Totally. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of reptilian conspiracies and the nature of reality itself, I want to leave you with one final thought. If you could see through this hypnotic code, if you could see the world as Florburn describes it, would you want to? What would that do to your life, your relationships, your whole understanding of everything? It's a question with no easy answers, but it's one that I think is worth asking ourselves. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride, and until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep an open mind.